Good morning, students. I believe everyone should be able to see me now. This is my first time doing this format of a video, but I believe you should be able to see me. Um, if one of you would please just leave a message in the chat to let me know that you are seeing and hearing me, that would be super helpful. While we get started, I'm going to give everyone a few minutes to log in. But as we do that, I wanted to go over a couple of housekeeping things. So if you're watching the YouTube live, over on the right of the YouTube live, there's a little chat box. You can just chat in there. Awesome. Nicole can see me. Nicole, can you hear me as well? And here. Awesome. Thank you. Perfect. So a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. You'll probably notice if you log into the strategy simulation, you cannot make any more decisions. I stopped the decisions for that practice round a few minutes ago, and I am going to allow you the next week to log in. You can do this as a group if you'd like to, but I know that you didn't want to have too much outside group work, so I encourage you to do it individually. Log into the strategy simulation and look at how your team did with that practice round. Take a few minutes to do that. I'm also going to go through and look at what all of you did and send emails to each of your teams with some feedback and some suggestions so that you can have the best experience possible with the simulation. I'm going to actually reset the whole thing, but I will reset it back to 0 about an hour before our next class. So you'll have until then to get in there and check it out. I think that's the only announcement I have. Well, another announcement. So next week on Monday, we are going to jump back into lectures, and we're also going to have a quiz on the strategy simulation. This quiz is really important because in taking this quiz, it's going to show to me that you know what you need to do to be successful in the strategy simulation. It is a quiz that is individually completed by each of you. But your team members will really appreciate knowing that you did well on the quiz. I'm of course not going to tell any scores, but I encourage you to work hard so that you can pass that quiz. That quiz, until you pass it, and to pass it, I'm going to say that you need at least a 70% on the quiz. To pass the quiz, you're going to need to look through the student guide that you have available to you in the strategy simulation as well as in the week 3 modules in Canvas. Take a look at that guide, familiarize yourself with it, with the guide, so that when the quiz is happening, which you can have the guide open for, it's an open book, you'll know where to turn for the answers. If you fail the quiz, I will give you opportunities to retake it. And you can retake those quizzes at home on your own time. However, it's going to be a little bit of a pain. So, pain for you, right? You have class time, just do well the first time. It is mandatory that you pass this quiz, though, in the first couple of weeks to make sure you are ready for the simulation. If you don't pass, I will be talking to you directly to help you work through any problems you might be having. With that in mind, I now want to introduce our guest speaker. So Tyler Heaps, I had the privilege of working with him when I was at Lendio. So Lendio is a fintech company. They do financial technology software, and they do small business lending for companies that have a hard time getting funding through banks. So I hired Tyler as my SEO manager. He did search engine optimization, and he did such a great job that after, I think it was less than a year, probably around 9 or 10 months, an outside agency came along and poached him away. And I hate to see my employees go, but like I mentioned in class a few sessions ago, if you're being a good manager, you're trying to empower your employees so that they can leave, because it just means they're going to increase in their skills, and then you get to work with them down the road. It's a win-win for everyone. So I hated to see him leave, but he had a very fruitful career at the agency he went to. He went to an agency The abbreviation is EKR, and I think it's Eli Kirk. I don't know what the R is. I'll let Tyler tell you that. Um, but he went to an agency as the director of digital marketing. He had a lot of success there. He grew their digital marketing revenue by 247% year over year, which is a huge accomplishment. Because of that, he was poached by several other companies. And then about 2 years ago, he went to, well, a little over, maybe about a year and a half ago, he went to Rain Retail. And he started there as a director of marketing, which is a really good role. Director of marketing type jobs pay well, but he's recently been given an increased responsibility set, and I'm hoping a good increase in salary too, to be the vice president of marketing for Rain Retail. I know he manages several software as a service brands that he will tell us about. Um, but yeah, one of the nice things about Tyler too, and the reasons I wanted to have him on here, is he's humble and nice. He's probably not going to boast too much about his success, but he has had a lot of it. And he's very nice to jump on our broadcast this morning. So, um, as he's presenting, he's going to take 20, 30 minutes to present some slides based on the questions that you asked during during class several sessions ago. So he's kind of prepared a slide share to help you with that. And then after that, we're going to open it up to questions where I would like you all, please put questions into the comment box if you have them, and I will ask them to him in a discussion format after the broadcast, after his presentation portion is over. So let me bring up Tyler here. Okay, Tyler, let's see, I'm trying to get this. Perfect, there we go. Um, so Tyler is very kindly agreed to meet with us too. He's calling in from Utah, so that time at 6 a.m. and he had to jump on the call 15 minutes early. So he's been up since 5 o'clock, um, prepping for this probably. So Tyler, thank you and welcome.
Oh, thank you. That was a very nice introduction. I appreciate that.
Great. Would someone mind, Evan, Nicole, anyone else, would you mind just chatting to make sure you don't have any echo problems? Sometimes these broadcasts can have echoes when two people are presenting at the same time. Um, and you can see Tyler has a very, very beautiful kitchen too. I'm getting Tyler. Your kids, are they still in bed?
Yes.
Good. Hopefully they'll stay in bed for the next hour.
Yes. I
That's,
have two of your teenagers now, so they most likely will. So,
wow, you have teenagers. That's awesome.
yeah.
Good for you. Okay, good. Nicole says she's not hearing any echo. Um, Another student though says that they can't hear you that well. You're a little bit quieter than me, I think. So maybe just speak up or move your mic a little bit closer to you. Um, yeah, no echo problems though. And so maybe just speak a little louder, or when I'm not talking, you students can increase the volume on your computer a little bit to hear Tyler better. Okay, Tyler, how about why don't we do your presentation now, and then we'll come back to the same view where you and I can have a discussion afterwards.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
All right. Sharing up the sound. So, Ben, or your professor Ben gave me a great introduction. I appreciate that. Um, but I figured I'd start out with a little bit about me. So, just my family. I've been married for 16 years. Have 3 kids. We also have a dog. And then been in marketing for 12 years. I don't think we need to cover all of the background since Ben did a really good job with that. But yeah, in my current role, so the fun thing about Rain Retail, when I started, uh, it's actually just been a year. But when I started, we had 3 brands that we were marketing for. We now have 8, and we'll have more by the end of the year because we are doing a growth by acquisition model, which basically means we are going out and acquiring other software as a service software brands, all in the point of sale space. But as part of that, we are either marketing for them or rolling them up under one of our other brands. So lots of fun work to do, but I have a great team to work with, and thankfully it's not just all me. But some of the things that I love to do, traveling with my family. We're big baseball fans in our house. Actually, from the picture you can see my 12-year-old son. He is he plays baseball for a traveling baseball team, so we do a lot of baseball trips. And then love the outdoors, and outdoor cooking is one of my favorite things to do. So that's a little bit about me, just so you guys kind of understand a little bit more about my background. And so wanted to start out with a marketing campaign that we recently did. I thought this might be interesting for everyone, but so this was an interesting campaign for me. So I, in marketing, we're really from a company structure. You have a couple of different options. You've got the branded house, which means you've got a company that usually only has one brand, but then they have a lot of different product lines. So Nike, for example, would be a branded house, or Adidas would be a branded house. Then you've got your house of brands structure. House of brands is when you usually have the parent brand, and then underneath there you've got multiple other brands. Like P&G is a great example of this. Anyway, there's a lot of examples out there. I've always been a house of brands type marketer. That's what I've always preferred, and honestly seen the most success with that. But this was a learning opportunity for me, because when we went to start, actually it was prior to Music Shop 360. So Rain, Rain used to have brands like jewelry and music and a lot of different verticals underneath that. When we launched Jewel 360, because our parent company, we actually have a private equity firm that funds Rain at this point, but Rain's been around for 14 years, and that's pretty new to have them. But we went the route of we're going to create a separate brand, and we're going to market it separately. We're going to keep it separate for the most part, and so we had a lot of success with that. So the opportunity we had with the music side of Rain, Rain's been selling to music stores as their point of sale for about 5 years at this point. And for the last 2 years, the sales and the lead numbers have been declining. So much to the point that there's discussions of, do we keep selling in music? Because do we have the right do we have the right technology to sell to these music stores? And looking at the opportunity, we came to a conclusion as a leadership team that, we had a lot of success with Jewel 360, and in our market research, we found that a lot of people wanted a point of sale that was very specific to their industry. So we took those same principles and we applied it to music. And so for music, we actually just launched this last October, but in August of 2022, we started the whole process of creating the brand, and for music. So really what that entailed is, so Music Shop 360 was the name that we decided to go with. There's quite a bit of market research that went behind this to identify what name do we want to go with, what are people going to resonate with, and then from there we identified brand colors and the logo and all of the branding elements that go into this. There's so many moving parts and pieces when you do a branding project. From there, we had a website. This is part of the homepage that you can see on the screen. The full website is musicshop360.com. But we then built a go-to-market strategy behind this. Essentially, what we're doing there is, how do we get the word out to the masses? And so what we did is we focused primarily on the digital marketing side, including a public relations effort. So we had hired an agency to help us with the public relations. So like press releases and setting up interviews with reporters, things like that. We've had a lot of success at Rain with digital marketing as far as like running Google ads and Bing ads, um, working with different digital publications. SEO as was mentioned, is a big part of my background. So that was obviously a big piece that we played there. And then some more traditional outlets we included, like with sending postcards and email and things like that. So as we kind of got into this, you can see that this is some of the data we found. So with October being we launched the first I believe it was October 7th was our official launch day. And that was a big month for us. I mean, the fact that we had the majority of our leads coming in organically, or they clicked on a non-paid ad, or just on a regular Google search result that's not an ad, was pretty big. And a lot of that was not just because of the SEO that we had done; it was a lot of the PR that we had done to lay the groundwork. And then we had paid ads to support, and we've maintained that growth. Actually, January that just finished yesterday was our highest music sales month uh, since we launched Music Shop 360, and also the highest that it ever was under the Rain umbrella. Um, so that yeah, please. Correct. It was being sold under the Rain uh, brand and name. Yeah, it. I mean, it really. I think what this showed me more than anything is, um, you have to always be open to change. You have to be open to changing your mindset. Even though I up to this point I had not seen success in separating a brand out, because there's so much work that goes behind it, and there's a lot of work to lay the groundwork. But when your customers are asking for something, you've got to be able to pivot. Um, and we were fortunate enough to figure this out with a previous brand launch, the Jewel 360 brand, and we applied the principles we learned there, and we applied it to music. And so, as a marketer, just be prepared that it's a career of pivoting, it's a career of change, and it's a good thing. So with our go to market strategy, basically, so the what we're looking at, the two graphs here, these are our leads that came in. So when I'm talking about a lead, we're saying that somebody's come to our website and filled out a form on the page, with like their name, anyway, all of their info, and basically saying, yes, I want to talk to a sales rep. They then go through the process of talking to one of our sales reps, and they will work with them to close the sale. That's what this bottom graph is that you can see. So October, I mean, we had historically been doing one sale a month under Rain. June we had two, but August one. October we hit the gate with three, which was awesome. And then November we jumped up to five, and surprisingly, December was a big month for us. We're now consistently bringing in at least 10 deals a month, um, with under the music brand, which we haven't seen. I don't think we've ever seen that under the Rain uh, umbrella. So I think this really speaks to being able to listen to what people are requesting, pivot, and run with it. Yep. Yeah, so 2022 was a year of a lot of change for Rain. One of those was adding we historically had a, basically a team of account executives that would manage the lead from start to close. Marketing would bring the lead in, and then the sales team would take it through all the way through. And then um, by expanding the sales team, we added what are called BDRs or business development reps. And so what happens is they would then manage the lead and then pass it on to the account executive when that person was ready to get a demo of the product. We also added outbound BDRs, and their job was to take cold leads. So in the case of December, we ran a campaign that was looking at all the leads that came under the Rain brand that had said, I'm not ready for this, or your technology is not where I want it. And a big part of the launch for Music Shop 360 was we added an integration that people have been asking for a while called My Music Staff. Essentially, it allowed people to manage their lessons for students outside of their POS or within their POS. So the sales outbound effort was them calling old leads that we had generated under the Rain brand and letting them know that, hey, we launched this new Music Shop 360. We have this new integration that everybody's been asking for a couple of years. And that was a huge success in getting 5 deals from the sales call effort. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. So we're now at a point where we've got a 2022 was a year of change, and not only how we manage the leads, but and the team growth, but now we have a lot of different systems in place. Like for example, we heavily use the tools HubSpot and Salesforce. Salesforce to manage our sales engine, and HubSpot to manage the marketing engine, and then they talk to each other. And so the sales team they use the Salesforce side very heavily to be able to build their lists and to manage those and manage people all the way through the pipeline. But with marketing, we're using HubSpot uh, quite a lot to drive different stages of the lead process. So from you've got your top of funnel, which are people that are just coming in, middle funnel that are people that are lukewarm, ready, possibly ready to buy, and then you've got your bottom of funnel, which is the people that I'm ready to buy, let's do this. And so with marketing, one of the other things that we added last year was marketing automation, which is um, con- continuing to um, communicate to people through every stage of the funnel. So maybe they came in and they're just kicking the tires. Well, our job is then to nurture them all the way down the pipe until they are ready to say, you know what, I'm ready for a demo. Let's talk. Let's actually talk to somebody, because not everybody's ready to buy when they come in as a lead. They might just be coming in to say, what is this new software? And we actually have quite a few that are planning to start a business and they want to see what it is. So when they do start their business or when they acquire a retail store, they kind of know who the players are and who they want to talk to. But we use the lead nurturing to stay on top of mind for them, and but also provide them with additional information along their journey. Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And I would absolutely say that the inbound certification is one of the best certifications you can get. I actually require all of my team members to get that, just because it really does. And I'm not being paid to say this. This is purely what I have seen, but it does help you gain an understanding of the full funnel, because marketing isn't just doing a paid ad or doing something on social media. It's really a holistic effort where every piece of marketing communicates to somebody, and maybe one of them will resonate with them. But typically, somebody's going to see a, a marketing touch point 7 to 10 times before they say, "Okay, fine, I'll talk to you." Um, so, all right. So a couple of the questions were sent over to me beforehand, and so I put put some of those in. I grabbed a handful of them. Some were pre-selected for me, or at least kind of highlighted. And so I did my best to put some of these in and prepare for it so you guys can all see it. But so the first one is, how do you go about identifying target markets for a product or service? So the first exercise that I always do is, it's you sit down and you do a brainstorming exercise. So identify your ideal customer. A lot of times when I'm doing consulting for another business, um, this is one of the questions I ask, and you'd be surprised at how many times people say, "Well, I want to sell to everyone. Everyone's my customer." Um, but that's not the case. So there's a phrase, and I'm gonna probably not say this exactly correct, but if you're marketing to everyone, you're marketing no one, and that's true. Marketing is definitely headed in an area where it's focused on personalization. So you've got to personalize and tailor your message to your audiences. And then and then you have, from there, how do you do that? You build the customer personas. I actually I can I'll send these slides out, but I've got a link to download HubSpot that has one of the best persona templates that I've seen. We use it within Rain, and I've used it in 2 or 3 past companies. But you build out this template, and it really walks you through everything. It has you really think about who is this person, what do they care about, what do they think about, are there things that they is are what are the problems that they're having, how do you solve those problems. You got to think through all of those questions to really build out that message. And then another important piece that a lot of people forget to do is identify who your customer is not. And so basically, go through that same exercise, but in a different lens. What you're going to look at is, who do I not want to sell to, or who is not a good fit for this? I think you can look at brands like Nike and Adidas. They know exactly who their customer is not. They know exactly who they want to sell to. Those are different things that help you identify who your target market is. Is your product or service valuable to this target market? All of those things. Um, so, and then we get into with the next question: how do you incorporate data and analytics? So, data and analytics is a huge part, and I know that um, your professor can absolutely attest to this in his experience with marketing. But this is part of the reasons why we use HubSpot and Salesforce so deeply, is because that's how we extract data. A big part of my role is identifying, okay, we're spending money in all of these different areas. We're using paid ads, we're using social media, we're sending postcards, we go to events, trade shows. We do about 30 trade shows a year with all the different industries that we serve. And so part of my role is to look at the data and identify, are we getting the right amount of value from each channel, and then identifying, you know what, we're actually spending way too much on. For example, an example I have of this is, we used a lead aggregator, which is basically a company out there that will generate leads for you and then pass them on. This was a big part of Brain's strategy before I came on, because they were able to get a high number of leads. But upon further analysis and verification, we found that we were actually spending a lot more to close one of those leads, even though we were getting we were getting 500 to 700 leads from these sources every month, but maybe only closing one or two. Where we were with our paid search, we're closing 30 to 40% of leads that come in through that channel. So my job at that point was then to say, you know what, we are going to turn off that channel. We're going to divert those funds elsewhere. So it's constantly something that I'm using data to identify things like that. And then another fun thing that I don't know if you will get into, but is A/B testing. A/B testing is a huge method for identifying how things are performing. When I talk about what I mean is you will have a great example of this is you'll have two different versions of a web page. Everything can be the same on there, but maybe you change the headline so that the text is different in the headline. And then you use heat mapping, which is a tool to help you understand how people are using and where they're clicking on the page, and even some video recordings of their experience to understand which version of the page is better. And then once you identify the winner, then you move on to the next test, or maybe you test a background image, or maybe you test the length of the form, things like that. So lots of data analytics and marketing. Absolutely. All right. So, how do I stay up to date with competitors and marketing strategies? So, this is an interesting one because I try not to get too into the weeds on this. It is very important to understand what they're doing, absolutely, but there you can also get into doing this too much, where you are trying to emulate your competitors too much, or you're worried too much about what they're doing. But some of the basic things that I absolutely always do is following them online. So, their social media channels, their blogs, YouTube videos, all those types of things. That helps me kind of know what offers are they running, what kind of design are they finding success with, things like that. And then you can use different competitor tracking tools. My favorite is either SEMrush or SpyFu. SEMrush will give you a lot more information. It is a paid tool, but you can go into and see how's their organic strategy doing. What are they doing on social media? What are they doing on paid? And actually see their paid ads that they're running. Um, I use this more for inspiration and not so much of just keeping a like spying on my competitors. It's very important to know what they're doing, but it's also very important that you identify and what separates you apart from your competitors, and including that in your messaging. Because if your competitors are not doing it, then they will fall behind. But 90% of the time, they will be doing it, and it's important for you to also identify what those differences are and message that uh, to your prospects or current customers, just to keep them. You want to keep your current customers from going off and looking at another solution and saying, "Well, Rain doesn't have this, but this other company has this." You want to message even to your current customers and let them know that, hey, this is everything we do have, so you don't get them guessing of what did Rain do for me lately type thing. All right. So I have been, I guess, I've had the benefit of working for both an agency and an in-house team. So with this, I I guess where I'm at right now. I definitely prefer working for an in-house marketing team. However, the agency work that I did was extremely valuable. So really the main difference that between the two is with an agency, you are working on a lot of different brands, you're doing a lot of different campaigns, and the learning experience that happens within an agency is hard to match. Um, and so basically it's to from my career, it was a great stepping stone. One of actually my third job, because I started out as an intern for an in-house team, and then I worked at a startup for a little bit, and anyway, then went to an agency prior to working at Lendio, and the agency taught me a lot. The downfall, in my opinion, and there are people that absolutely love agency life, and I think it's important that you get some experience in both areas and find what works best for you. But the reason why I prefer in-house is because I was never really able to go as deep as I wanted to with agency work. uh, for example, we would run a marketing campaign, and based on what the needs of the client was, it was typically run this paid search campaign and this SEO campaign. We didn't have eyeballs into the full picture, like what are you doing with traditional marketing, or what are you doing with these pieces. Working for an in-house team, that is, we can go as deep as we want, but we don't work on as many projects. So I would say probably the downfall for others that work in-house that might prefer agency work is you typically only work on one brand. Rain is unique where we have eight and soon to be more brands. So it's kind of like a hybrid of agency versus in-house, but we work on the whole picture. And so for me, I like being able to dive much deeper and be able to have that laser focus on uh, one product or brand. But like I said, a lot of people, there's definitely a split in marketing. There's a lot of people that absolutely hate in-house work and they want the wide picture of agency work. So you just got to find out what do you like best, and it's a good opportunity to work in both areas, either as an intern or whatever, to identify what you like. Um, all right. So if you could go back in time and talk to yourself when you were about to graduate, what would you tell yourself? Um, this was this question definitely caused me to reflect quite a bit on my career, and the what I came up with is chase after good leaders, not money or title. Um, Now, what I mean by that is the leaders that you will ultimately work for is is what is going to um, really either make or break your success. But also, a lot of it has to depend on um, how what you learn. Um, so, with my experience, like the money and the title came with the ability to perform and learn leadership skills. Um, I have worked for some amazing leaders who, when I say leaders, not just taught me about marketing and not just gave me more things to do in marketing, but they actively went out and elevated me to either their bosses or to other people in the company and gave me opportunities to be exposed to more responsibility in things. Um, like for example, I had a boss that he would have to present to the CEO every month on what we had to do. He would, based on what he was presenting, he would bring in people on his team to present those present their actual work, because a leader is not typically a leader is not going to be doing a lot of the work. We are directing it, we are providing the strategy most of the time, but uh, most of the time we are not in the weeds every day and doing a lot of those things. um, I have also, on the flip side, worked for some pretty terrible leaders. um, when and with that, I mean, an example of this is working. I've worked with leaders that did basically none of the work, including the strategy. But then when the team had success, they take that success and they say, "I did this. This was all me." Um, or on the flip side to that, when things did not perform as well, they took that and they said, "Yeah, that was my team's problem. They didn't perform like I wanted them to." Those are leaders you want to avoid. So those are things that I um, would absolutely go back and change. And how do you do that? Interview when you're being interviewed by a company, you should be interviewing them as well. Try to understand what their culture is, understand what they care about, what they're focused on, where are they going as a company. You're going to definitely come across as a much better candidate when you do that as well. Um, but just know that that also comes along with, you'll probably identify that, this company, the pay is really nice and I like the title, but maybe I don't want to work for them because we don't share the same values or things like that. Um, yep, absolutely, yeah. And so that also answers the next question, which is, I'd say it's two parts, but how do you, like, any advice for you graduating? One of the things that I did early in my career and continue to try to do as much as I can today is networking. So find opportunities to network. In Utah, we have uh, things called like the Digital Marketing Collective, where digital marketers from all of northern Utah usually get together once a month and have a guest speaker, but then they have a chance to usually eat dinner or snacks together and just can talk. Um, I Early on in my career, I went to as many of these as I could do, and I tried to talk to as many people as I could. That was definitely not my strong suit, but that has paid off dividends over the years because I've been able to meet a lot of very smart people in marketing that have either pointed me to different companies or pointed me to leaders, and also paid attention to what those leadership styles are and adopted the good ones, and I'll do my best to avoid the bad ones. But And then I would absolutely encourage internships. So that was really how I got my stepping stone in marketing. Is I I did an internship in digital marketing. Primarily, my role was actually social media. I found out I hated social media. I hated doing it. I don't like doing it to this day, but I do have people on my team that love doing it, and so I've been able to hire people on the team that have that as a strength. But internships will help you figure out, what do you like in marketing? Do you like marketing? Or so many different things, but also be that launch pad for your career and help you gain that experience that you're going to need to get into some other companies. All right. So this actually kind of goes along with the last question about the advice that I would give myself. But so challenge that I faced in my career was main challenge I faced. was centered around poor leadership. Um, I I don't want. I'm not going to get specific with what company or whatnot, but um, I've worked for some I've worked for some leaders that actually from not only just on like marketing leaders, but I would even say CEOs and other executives in a company. And so there was I've had a couple jobs where it was like, you know what, I want to chase that. I want that title or that salary increase looks really good. And I left a happy company to go after that opportunity and got in there within 90 days. Sometimes it was a little longer. I realized, wow, this is not what I thought I was signing up for. And so I think this just goes back to what I would tell myself is interview the companies that you are being interviewed by. It is your opportunity to do that just as much as they are doing it to you. They're looking for the right fit, but you also want to make sure that you're the right fit. Um, so, and then I, along with that, I've absolutely seen in some leaders traits that I absolutely do not like. For example, I'm not a micromanager. I don't enjoy being micromanaged. What I mean by that is a leader that likes to tell you, okay, today I want you to go work on this and with this and this. Um, the environment that I thrive in personally is having autonomy to be able to basically say, okay, here's what we're trying to accomplish. Now help us accomplish it. That's how I manage my team, um, because those are the environments that I see have had the most growth. And from my opinion, that's where people are most happy because they're able to think for themselves and carry out those things. Okay, so how did I advance? So I think we've kind of already covered a lot of this, but networking was a huge part for me. Um, Being able to contact the right people who were able to give me the next opportunities. So in the introduction, when we were kind of talking about my background, when I was at Lendio, um, I had already made connections that were at EKR. The and Just as a quick side note, the company was Eli Kirk Riser. Riser was a company that Eli Kirk had purchased, and after they purchased them, they rebranded to EKR. Riser was a design company that they had acquired. Anyway, but so with that, I had I had a very good friend and mentor in the marketing space, and that mentor introduced me to one of the executives at EKR. Um, uh, Actually, before Lendio, and at the time, it wasn't right to move over there. But as I kind of continued to grow in my career, EKR was looking to add on a digital marketing element to their business. They were doing a lot of creative, like design work. They were doing a lot of website building, and a lot of other more branding type projects. But ask, they had a lot of clients asking for websites or digital marketing services. So by having those connections, I was able to start having conversations with them when they were ready to add that department, and I was brought over there when they were ready to make that move. I have continued to network, and this is actually also another really nice thing about agency work. Agency work, you get to talk to a lot of people. You get to talk to a lot of leadership in other marketing companies and things like that. Um, I ended up just I ended up moving on to Nature Sunshine, which is a supplement company, and there I was able to actually work with my very good friend who had introduced me to the leadership at EKR. And then I just gained additional skills, and um, one of the but even though my career early on was focused on digital marketing, by going to Nature Sunshine, I was able to learn go-to-market strategy. I was able to learn branding, messaging, all of these things that are typically outside the digital marketing lens. And from there, I went to another startup where I was actually employee number one, helped create the idea from the very beginning to where we were selling it. That ended up not being a great experience for me, for a number of different reasons that don't really matter. But um, I was anyway, by landing at Rain, um, I had taken a lot of the experience that I have learned in these past um, companies and things and applied them to Rain. And Rain was in a situation where they had been doing marketing with very little success. I was able to bring in some processes and bring in some new things to the team that worked out very well. Mostly because I had a really solid team behind me. And I was able to work with them to come up with a cohesive strategy, and we've had a lot of success. Um, the VP role honestly came from an acquisition that Rain did. We acquired a pet uh, point of sale software, and they had already had some marketing leadership in place, but they weren't doing as well, and so they moved. They Rain acquired them, and I was fortunate enough to get a promotion from there, and so really it comes down to a lot of hard work, being an expert in your industry, and now and just being able to connect with the right people. A lot of those things will open doors for you. And then I would also add to that um, definitely as a leader, you're not going to be doing as much as the day to day, but it is still so important to keep your skills honed and to always be learning. Marketing is definitely a career where you are always learning, and as soon as you stop, you will fall behind because there are so many things happening very rapidly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the way that I've always handled those, especially if it's a decision I don't agree with, it goes back to data analytics. And it comes down to being able to present your your findings. Basically, everybody will have an opinion, but if you can't back up that opinion with actual data, it becomes hard to be listened to. Um, and to be honest, in some cases, like for example, with the startup that I was at before Rain, um, it got things got to a point where I said, you know what, this is not working for me. There were cases that I was asked to do things that I believed were unethical, and so I ended up I ended up actually going back to the drawing board and networking and applying for different roles, and that's where I found Rain. Um, and Rain is a fantastic place to be for me. I absolutely um, absolutely love it there, which is so much better than being in a toxic environment. So, in some cases, you can absolutely kind of work with that person, bring data to the table, have open discussions, have those hard discussions. Um, Hard discussions meaning like bringing something of, hey, this is something that I am struggling with. I don't agree with this. Can you help me understand the bigger picture here? Be open to what is being said because both parties want to be heard, and it's important that you understand kind of their point of view or try, but just know that in some cases you may come to the conclusion of this is not the best place for me. It's time for me to move on, and that's okay. um, but hopefully you will be able to work it out with bringing data to the table and being understanding and listening to their point of view, but also sharing yours. So all right, so I know we have a few minutes left, but I just a couple more things. Basically, I know there's lots of questions with the tech industry. There's a lot of layoffs going on. There's a lot of companies pausing hiring. There are so many factors to this. What I've put down is just one of those factors. But from my point of view, the tech industry is still very strong. The tech industry is going through a lot of change. For example, you look at tools. I don't know if you guys have talked about it, but the Chat GBT, it's an AI tool. There's so many AI tools out there, but companies are trying to figure out, how do we adjust? How do we do this? They're also, a big factor of this was during the pandemic, when a lot of people were working from home. There was a big boom in the economy. People were buying a lot of goods and services, and so companies took that opportunity to explosively grow. I compare that to how Rain handled things. Rain handled things. They actually didn't go out and hire a bunch of people, even though they absolutely could have. They kept with their same team, and monitored that growth and kept a very steady growth trajectory. I think it's and so A lot of the companies, at least in Utah, from what I have noticed, the tech companies in Utah, is they went out and they hired a lot of people. Um, but then as things started to normalize, and also there's a lot of worry of going into this recession or things like that. They companies are eliminating those roles and trying to see how can they apply efforts like Chat GPT or other AI tools. I'd say one of the best things you can do is always be learning again, but figure out how can you use those tools to your advantage. Um, I At this point, no AI tool is going to get you 100% there. Plus, there still has to be brain power to get those things to work. And so, figure out how to use those to your advantage, and be able to show executives that, hey, these are things that we should be trying, or we should be looking at, and work with that. But like I said, Rain, we are currently having our um, best growth ever. Actually, January was our highest sales month in the history of the company. With all these other tech companies that are um, doing layoffs, we are currently hiring for a lot of different positions. So just pay attention to companies that have a strong growth plan, have strong leadership, all of those things. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you still, even with tools like this, you still have to have the strategy. You still have to be able to provide the info that you want. It's good to know that what's out there, and if you can apply it, great. But um, anyway, I just say, just always be learning. So, any additional questions? This is actually an image that we use in our pet point of sale brand. So I figured it was a great one to try for this slide. It is not my dog. My dog's all black. He's a German short hair, but
That's awesome. So, do you mind stopping sharing and going back to your camera, Tyler? We'll uh, handle some of these questions. Okay. Awesome. There we are. Um, so, one question that came up, you shared something interesting in one of your earlier slides. Um, you said you talked about building the brand for Marketing Shop 360, and specifically you talked about doing marketing. You did a fair amount of market research to determine what kind of colors, calls to action, how you were building that brand. Um, I would love to know how you went about that market research. What were some techniques and things that you used for that?
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of things that were kind of a basic understanding beforehand. Like, for example, with colors, um, one of the things that we did is we looked at what are the key players in the music space, not just music software, but we looked at companies like Fender, Zildjian, I, I'm not a music guy, so I don't know. I'll probably mispronounce a lot of them, but anyway, we looked at software companies, we looked at music brands, we looked at um, just the music space in general, even a lot of retailers. So a lot of it was just kind of taking a look at the space. What's the typical color scheme that they'll use? And then there's also having a good understanding of color theory. So what I mean by color theory is people will resonate to different things. Like, for example, when you see the McDonald's arch, usually one of the first things that comes to your mind is French fries. Um, or when you see the Facebook blue in social media. There's also so many different things behind colors that influence different emotions that's been studied. So we had that understanding of those elements, but then looked at the space and what is a commonly used color scheme, and that's where we landed with the Music Shop 360 colors. Um, as far as other things, we did market testing. Like we spun up different landing pages and ran paid ads to that before we launched the brand. And so we did some actual, there's tools out there that also help you gather user research data, but we did some live testing, and then we also uh, have a number of partners in the space that were already connected to us with Brainside. We had discussions with them of what are you seeing with your customers. We actually even did a preview with some of them and showed them this is the direction we're going, and we got either validation or feedback on some of those elements, and um, we adjusted. So
Okay.
a lot of it is not letting your feelings get hurt if you think that I'm 100% right, because the customer will a lot of times tell you differently.
Interesting. Okay. Um, that's good. Yeah, listen to your customers. We only have about 10 more minutes left, and I want to make sure we have time. I need to go over a couple of other housekeeping things I thought of during the call, but two last questions. We'll go over these briefly. So, um, when you're interviewing a marketer, let's think about so not role specific competencies. For example, if you're hiring an SEO guy, they need to be really good at content creation. But let's throw that content creation competency out the window. What are some competencies you expect to find in your marketers, no matter what their role is?
Yeah, great question. So first of all, um, are they a good communicator? Marketing is all about communication, but not just in marketing. I would say this applies to every single role you want to go after. Um, you've got to be able to communicate with your team. You've got to be able to communicate with the other teams and outside of that. So can you communicate well via email or verbally or things like that? Those communication skills are absolutely key to the success of really any role.
Great.
And then the other thing would be that your drive for learning. Um, if you're gonna, like, for example, I've worked with people in the past that their response to things is, well, this is what I've always done, and I'm gonna do it this way. Um,
Great, thank you. I want to end on one fun question. You mentioned early on that you like outdoor cooking. What does that entail? Are you doing Dutch oven? Like, what kind of outdoor cooking do you do?
Yeah, so I actually grill with my grill every day of the year, even if it's 5 degrees outside. But I do a lot of Dutch oven cooking, like breakfast and desserts, or just like dinners in general. That's a lot of fun for me. And I haven't done a ton of this, but I'm definitely wanting to get more into it with smoking meats and things like that. So yeah, cooking outdoors is a big passion of mine.
That's awesome. I got a Traeger probably about 2 years ago now, and I love it. It's just amazing to be able to smoke those meats or a baked good. You can smoke the baked goods, and it takes the smoke flavor too. So yeah,
Yeah,
very cool. Um, well, Tyler, thank you so much. I'm sure all the students appreciate your time as well. Students, I do want to just mention two things. So next Wednesday, so a week out, we were going to do the Microsoft case study. Because I want to give you plenty of time to work with your teams to put that case study together, the case study report, I'm going to move it back a class period. And so it's going to move from the 8th of February to the 13th. And on the 8th, we're going to be doing the first real round of the marketing strategy simulation. So be prepared for that. Um, I will send around an email with a little more details and an updated syllabus, just so that you know what to prepare for next week. Um, that's everything. Thank you so much, Tyler. It was great to have you go through all those questions. It sounds like you had an awesome career, and I'm sure the students are excited to have a career like yours as well.
well, thanks. I appreciate it. And don't forget, if you want to connect with me, I'm open to connecting on LinkedIn. So
That's great, Tyler. Thanks. And Tyler, if you don't mind, I think you actually shared the slides with me already. I'll find that file and make it available to the students if you're all right with that.
yeah, that's great.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you, Tyler, and thank you all for attending the broadcast.
Thanks.
Bye now.